Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. Bandai Namco has sent me a review code last week, and I've been playing that game as much as I can since it comes out today. I actually haven't finished it yet, but I wanted to bring you guys something now on release day because I know a lot of people are wanting to buy this game as soon as it comes out. So even though the game's not done, this is sort of a review in progress type of video. First, let me start by explaining why this is not a full review. Like I said, I have not finished the game. I am 18 hours in, and I feel like I'm getting to the end of story mode. I feel like it should be another 2 to 3 hours. I'll probably finish it today, or at least that's the vibe I'm getting from the game's story. It feels like it's starting to wrap up a lot of stuff. And second, there's a lot of multiplayer this time around that I just couldn't try. It's very hard to find multiplayer matches before the game actually releases. So I'll be doing that over the weekend, and early next week we'll have our full review with a score, with everything. Today, we're gonna focus a little bit on what my experience has been like, whether I think the game is good, whether it delivers on some promises or not. And I won't focus so much on explaining systems and stuff like that, because if you are that eager to buy this game, then you probably already know what Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet is all about. If not, just wait for the review. It should come out Tuesday. No promises, but it will probably come out Tuesday. So, the story itself has been a little bit disappointing. I think for the first 15 hours of the game, I was pretty bored with the story. Now it has started to pay off in some meaningful ways. These past 3 hours of gameplay have been pretty cool. I enjoyed them a lot. But you know, I had to sit through 15 hours of story that wasn't really going anywhere. Without spoiling too much, you basically create a character, and the story is all about beating this end game dungeon in this VR MMO. And since you are a new player, there's a lot of leveling up to do. There's a lot of preparation, you have to meet some requirements, and the whole story is about that. It's about preparing for that big encounter, and while you're preparing, you develop some relationships with, you know, some characters from the Sword Art Online universe, as well as some new original characters for this game, which technically, I guess, now fit within the Sword Art Online universe. And as far as character development goes, there are bits and pieces that are interesting, but they don't evolve too much until, like I said, 15 hours into the game, you start to get some pretty good payoffs. Up till that point, it's just everyone is so amazed at how good of a player you are. Oh my god, you might be the best Gun Gale Online player ever. Everyone's pretty much sucking up to you in a way that, you know, feels a little bit forced, because you're not doing anything that impressive. You're just playing the game. So yeah, despite the first 15 hours of the story not blowing my mind, I still enjoy the game for its gameplay. In fact, I would say this is my favorite Sword Art Online game so far. Granted, I wasn't a big fan of the previous Sword Art Online games, so this one didn't have a lot to live up to, but nevertheless, I think the third-person shooter style really fits the vibe, and they pulled it off. You have this assist mode where there's the square in the center of the screen that just sort of automatically aims at the target, and because it is an RPG, even if it is auto-aiming at the target, you will miss some shots, so it's not guaranteed that you will land every single shot unless you're aiming down manually. And most of the time, you can only hit the weak points of the enemies if you really aim at the weak points manually too. But you know, the auto-aim stuff is awesome because there's a lot of mobility in this game, so you need to be constantly moving, dodging bullets, and firing at the opponent. And I think the way they made this assist mode work is just phenomenal. You can turn it off if you're not a fan of that stuff, but personally, I have enjoyed it a lot. I don't know how much I'm gonna enjoy it in PvP battles against other players. That's something I need to figure out this weekend as I try out the multiplayer. But for story mode, I think it works great. And you know, it's an RPG. There's a lot of systems, a lot of stuff to learn here. The first 2 to 3 hours of gameplay is just talking to characters and learning systems. There's a little tutorial, but outside of that, it will be like 2 to 3 hours before you can even play the game. You're just roaming around this hub city, checking out the stores, learning about this RPG and how it works, how you can upgrade weapons, how you should buy ammunition before going out on missions, which characters you can talk to acquire information or other goods. And even though they spend 2 to 3 hours in that stuff, it still doesn't explain you everything. There are a lot of systems that this game just doesn't touch upon, and you sort of had to explore and discover for yourself. And some of this stuff is actually crucial, and it feels like to some degree they're expecting the players to have played the previous Sword Art Online games, because some systems actually transfer over. I don't think that's a fair thing to expect in my personal opinion, but it is the way it is. And just like that, there are also like quality of life things that they really miss. For instance, you have this hub city, like I told you. And outside of this hub city, you can go out on missions on these places that, you know, resemble an open world. They're not really an open world. They're sort of these areas filled with enemies, and from these areas you can access dungeons. But before you head out into battle, there are many places that you can visit to get quests. Now, there are many different types of quests, and all of them are in a different room, which means for you to visit all the places that have quests before going out on a mission, you'll have to go through 4 to 5 loading screens. Why couldn't you have all these people in the same room? I don't know, maybe it would make too much sense. That's been the biggest bummer for me, is the loading screen stuff, how you can only do certain things inside certain rooms. It's like they dedicate a whole room to this specific thing, like accepting PvP quests, accepting PvE quests, accepting treasure hunting quests. All of these happen in a different room, so you have to go through a loading screen every time you want to visit one of them. And sometimes you get there and there's no new quests, but you still have to go there to check before you go into the world if you want to maximize the XP you're getting. There's also weird customization stuff. For instance, if you want to upgrade a weapon, you cannot have it equipped, so you have to get out of the upgrade menu, unequip your weapon, replace it with something else, and then you can upgrade it. There's weird customization stuff that you can only do in your own room, like setting up your skill wheel. You can use 4 skills, you can see them at the bottom right of the screen, but for you to customize that wheel, you need to be at home. You can buy skills from anywhere in the world, but you can only customize the skills you take into battle from your home. So that's another loading screen if you want to customize that. So yeah, a lot of this quality of life stuff that gaming has figured out throughout the years, it seems that Sword Art Online does not want to deal with. They live in their own universe and they feel like they don't need to address this. That's been the biggest bummer. I say this, try not to exaggerate. I think my 18 hours of gameplay, around 10 to 20% was spent on loading screens. They're not excruciatingly long, but there's just so many of them. And I think this would be very, very easy to fix. You can just have less rooms and more useful people inside those rooms giving you quests. But yeah, overall, the game's alright. I've been having a lot of fun. Even if the story side of things wasn't pulling me before, it is kind of pulling me now. Granted, it is a bit late. It's a bit much to ask the player to play for 15 hours before the story gets good. But the gameplay side of things has been satisfying enough. The reward loop, like you're constantly getting new weapons and new items. I'm not a big fan of the upgrade system, and you do have to upgrade your weapons. Otherwise, you won't be dealing enough damage once you get to a higher level. And the upgrade system works pretty much like a crafting system. You have to hunt down specific creatures to get specific parts. You can also buy them from a vendor who is very well hidden, and they never introduce you this vendor. Never in the tutorial. You have to randomly find this guy. But there you go. Since you're watching this video, I guess now you know where he is. He sells very expensive materials that can be used for crafting. Now, he doesn't sell you every single material that you'll need, so you'll still need some random drops from the world. And I don't think there is, or I haven't found any database that says, hey, this item drops from this monster in this area. Like I said, I'm still playing the game, still figuring stuff out, 18 hours in, because they don't explain a lot of it, but I still feel that they explain enough for you to have fun and then discover the rest on your own pace. To me, Sword Art Online is half good, half bad. I'm usually a big fan of the first half of the season when they're playing the game, the VR and MMO, and they're exploring like the implications that this technology has in the real world. Now, so far they haven't really gone into the real world implications, and I don't think they are going to cover that stuff in the game, but there are bits of character development in there that explain the situation of a character in the real world and how that translates into the game that have been interesting in my idea. Now, the second half of the Sword Art Online season is usually this harem style, everyone loves Kirito, everyone wants his Personally, I'm not a big fan of that stuff, but this game actually doesn't go too heavy into that either. There are little romance moments, especially with your AI partner, but it doesn't go super heavy into that stuff, or it hasn't yet. Maybe now, 20 hours in, it will go into that. I'm not really sure, but so far, it hasn't been a focus at all. There are these visual novel sort of moments where characters are just sort of narrating what's happening, but it is a character development thing. It is you creating a bond with your AI or other characters, but it's nothing like romantic or erotic or hentai-ish. So if that's what draws you into Sword Art Online, I haven't seen much of it, so maybe don't get the game. But if on the other hand, you're more fascinated about this VR world, this VR game, and the experiences that some characters have in the real world and what they bring into the game, if that's what interests you in Sword Art Online, then this game touches upon some of that stuff. Like I said, it takes a while for it to get there. But that's gonna do it for today. Look forward to the review coming up early next week. And last time we talked about character creation. It has a lot of sliders sliders now, you can watch that video right here. To that video, I would just add, a lot of those sliders don't have a big impact on your character. Like arm length, it never changes that much. If you're in the mood for something else, there's also the video at the bottom, but as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Boy.